All right, remember, with all of these things, we're simply finding a means to get in quickly. But what the heck is this hypnosis? I mean, what the hell are we doing? There's a certain sense that we're creating a ritual that builds an anticipation, a response. But I don't even really think too much about the discussions of, is there such a thing as trance or not? I don't really care. I mean, I said yesterday, to me, hypnosis is like cotton. I don't understand it, but I use it. So I don't know. I mean, the question was always, is it a state? Is it something we're in? Or is it a procedure, something we're doing? And the answer is yes. Provided the procedure continues, the state will result. But the idea that hypnosis is just increased suggestibility was disproven by Erickson. He said it only increases possibility of accepting suggestions, but the person can still say no to the suggestions right across the board. They still have that control. But at least now, with things like modern functional MRIs and that, we can see that there are things happening in the brain. We've got the right brain becoming more active, the left brain quieting down, and so on. So there's something going on. But in the formulation of models, the way I like to describe it to clients, the way they understand, if they're really, really computer savvy, I might talk about the model of magic number 7 plus or minus 2 and the 3 to 20 million bits of information that we are not getting, that are unconscious. Now you've got 3 types of memory, essentially. You've got, on the surface, you've got your short-term memory, which is electrical in nature. It's electrical in nature, and it tends to download into the unconscious mind during your ultradian rhythm every 90 to 100 minutes. And it fills up pretty quick. It's a scratch pad. So if I say to you, oh, my phone's not working, and some of you have been savvy enough to notice that I take it way, way further. I don't only have an iPhone. I have an eyes phone. It's freaking fantastic. Anyway, there's short-term memory, which is electrical in nature. And let's say my phone stops working. I say, hey, can you do me a favor? Go call my wife in Toronto. Please call, 416. I give you the number, and I say, give her a call. Tell her Mike's going to phone her tonight at 8 o'clock Toronto time. You go, okay, you have nothing to write it on. So you're saying the number to yourself, 416, and you get the phone, and you can't find your own phones. Use a payphone. It's so antiquated. The payphone burns coal. You get enough coal in it, and you put a quarter in, and you phone the number, 416, and say, is that Mike Mandel's wife? Yes. He wants you to know he'll call you tonight after 8 o'clock Toronto time. Oh, okay, thanks. And then you come back into the room, and we finish the lesson. We go to a break, and I say, oh, did you phone my wife? Yeah, I did. Everything's cool. Great, thanks. What was that phone number again? I don't know. You're not supposed to know. It's in your short-term memory. It's a scratch pad. But if you, through repetition and intention again, focus on what you are endeavoring to remember, you now activate protein kinase C, where your memory is stored, and your brain begins writing all of this as a protein molecule, and then through more and more practice, it will become permanent, but it will become permanent and archived sometimes. Archived memory is what we work with in forensic hypnosis. It's memory you cannot get to the surface without a trance. With a trance, you can get it. Wilder Penfield, the Toronto neurologist, was doing brain surgery on a woman. And it's one of those things, one of those bizarre ironies that the most terrifying surgery is the one where they don't want you to sleep when they're doing it, We're going to cut top of your head off, but we're going to keep you awake. Yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, there is a reason for it, but he's doing surgery on this woman. She's in the hospital, the operating room, and he puts a probe in her brain, an electrical probe, and she immediately flashes to a memory she had when she was a little kid. In the kitchen with her mother, not even a specific memory, just a random one. She remembered the smell in the kitchen, what they were talking about, the music that was playing on the radio, and even what she was wearing and what she was thinking at that moment. A complete fourtuple, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, with an auditory digital internal dialogue component as well. So it seems like we do have this slow running recorder that is taking every moment of our lives, and that's where the trauma is, but it's also where the resources are, and where all the things are that we can change. And so we have to be careful when we're working with deep trances, because we never know quite what we're going to activate. We're all carrying stuff. That's one of those weird terms, stuff. It's a hypnosis term. So when you're working with someone, I still recommend you get them in the deepest trance you can, because a somnambulistic state is the working trance of hypnosis. But when we're awakening someone, as Kathy just asked, with a K, asked, could I repeat my awakening phrase? Yeah, here's one I've used with some success for years. You can awaken on the count of 5, fully alert and refreshed, whatever you want to say there, and you'll be wide awake and back in this room. 1 can easily come back to the surface. I don't do it that, obviously. 3 times better than before we started, and be wide awake and revive on 5. Wide awake now. And then I always say, hi, and smile. That's important. It's important because of the coda. I'll show you. If this is the waking world, and we are in our daily life, we're typically hovering in a beta wave, about 12, maybe 12 to 18 cycles per second, 12 to 18 hertz. As we go into hypnosis, we shift into alpha, which is a daydreaming state. We go through high alpha, and then lower alpha, and then we go into a theta wave, which is the one the Zen monks produce when they say Zen koans, like the sound of one hand clapping and beat each other with bamboo sticks and stuff. I think I'd stick with the koan. And then you get down here to delta, and a delta wave is like 2 to 4 hertz. This is really slow. Your dreams happen here, just below wakefulness. Dreams are not in deep sleep. And you go through sleep cycles of 90 to 100 minutes. Throughout the day, you must dip into delta or your body doesn't heal properly. You must have alpha to depotentiate emotional arousal from the previous day or you become psychotic. And so you'll start dreaming with your eyes open. So when we do hypnosis, we are taking people through high and low alpha, probably into theta. There's some dispute about this, but my answer is all the same. All of these are absolutely arbitrary classifications designed around an attempt to reduce to digital information that which is essentially an analog phenomena. This is the academics again. You don't need this. Here's what you do. Zone them through the floor every time. Just zone them through the floor. Don't worry about this. A guy took me out for lunch to Mandarin Restaurant, this big buffet in Toronto. He said, I'll take you out for a big lunch if I can pick your brain on hypnosis for an hour. Oh, I'll have a good meal as much as anyone. Does it include wine? Yes, I'm going. And so we went, and he said, what do you think of hypnotic scales? I said, I think they're ridiculous. He said, well, which one do you use? Do you use the Davis-Husband scale, or the Friedlander-Sarbin scale, or the Lacron-Bordeaux scale, or the Harvard scale of standard hypnotizability, or the Carleton University scale? I said, don't use any of them. What? Why not? I said, you play chess, right, Andrew? And he said, yeah. I said, you're asking me, is it better to play chess on a wooden board or a marble board? He said, well, it's a ridiculous question. I said, exactly. No further questions, Your Honor. I said, just zone them through the floor. Stop worrying about depths and everything. Get them in a good trance. So here's where our post-hypnotics and our change work come in. If you start to go into a hypnotic state here, that they used to class as hypnoidal, meaning sort of being hypnotized, and Dave Ellman did amazing work with hypnosleep, which I believe he thought was the deepest of all. Is that right, Larry? You didn't think it was the deepest? I think he maybe revised it after in the work that he wrote, the idea that you could hypnotize someone who's actually asleep, and that's kind of cool as well. And it really fits in with Human Givens theory that is connecting sleep and hypnosis much more than we used to think. So here you are going into your trance, and you hypnotize the person, and whoa, the crazy roller coaster ride starts. And then you're down here in this deep trance, and then we bring the person out to waking awareness again. Now, in reality, this is not like this. It's jagged. You come out of it a bit, in a bit more, out, and you're drifting until it's stabilized a lot in trance. So let's presume that there is such a thing as light, medium, and deep trances. I really don't care. Light, medium, and deep, which would be somnambulism. Not, as I heard one trainer say, Samuelism. And not, as I heard another trainer say, the somnambulistic trance. I think you should be literate to be a hypnotist, since words are our weapon. I'm not asking too much. Just give me the language. So anyway, all that being said, here's a deep trance. This is the somnambulistic state. This is the one discovered by Marquis de Puységur. When Victor Race, his pupil, the shepherd, didn't do the funky chicken and twitch all over the place. Instead, he went blank, and his eyes staring, and the blink reflex disappeared. And he was in a very powerful trance state. He didn't know you're supposed to twitch. Nobody had told him. And so this is where we get the work done. Now, I agree, there is a state below this, the Esdale state. Back to James Esdale in the 1800s, British Army doctor, 300 serious operations, I said the other day, including the removal of a testicular tumor that was 80 pounds, which begs the question why one permits it to get so large before seeking medical attention. But he was able to remove this with no pain, and he reduced the mortality rate from surgery, from shock and infection, from 50% to about 8%, which is remarkable. So Esdale did this great work and found this Esdale state, but it was lost. And again, we have to thank Dave Ellman because he rediscovered the Esdale state. And not only that, he found an express train way for us to get to it. And so it's easy now to produce this, and we do this in all our Toronto classes and get full body catalepsy and all these cool things happening. But for the work we're doing therapeutically, typically the somnambulistic state is sufficient. And when we do post-hypnotic work, that's when it gets really cool. Because post-hypnotically, someone is going to have a suggestion at a later date fire, either a temporal suggestion, meaning at a certain time this will happen, or after so many minutes, or it will be an actual signal. The next time you see so-and-so, you'll think he's, Mick Jagger or whatever, like happened with that guy. So what you want to do is ensure that your suggestions, if you're doing post-hypnotic work, are very, very clear and simple. Now, let's say I give somebody a suggestion that the next person who comes up to him and speaks to him, he'll think is his best friend. He's known for, his whole life, or whatever you come up with. Then we bring him out of hypnosis. Ideally, we want the person to have amnesia for the suggestion. Not always, but ideally, because if you have amnesia for it, you're not able to consciously interfere with it. I hypnotized a guy in my youth and told him when he came out of hypnosis, he would have the irresistible urge to touch his head. And he remembered it consciously. And he came out of hypnosis at this party, and he said, "I know you're waiting for me to do something." I said, "That's fine." He said, "I'm not going to do it." I said, "Okay." He said, "I don't care how long you wait. I'm not doing it." I said, "Fine." He said, "Okay, get off my case." So they'll find justifications. When people fulfill a post-hypnotic suggestion, they'll have a reason for it that is remarkable. I told a man on stage that, he'd walk across the stage and bring me this object. But in between him and me was another person who he did not believe existed anymore. He couldn't see him. And I was careful. I didn't want to go smack face to face. But he walked over to him, and just when he got near him, he did this little sort of sidestep around him without touching him, kind of quickly. And I said to him, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "You sort of shuffled around right there." He said, "Oh, the spot on the floor, it looks slippery there." And he's pointing at the guy's feet. And he said, "I didn't want to fall." Just like instantly, they've got a reason for it. So you set your post-hypnotic suggestion, and the person comes out of trance. And now you're waiting 10 minutes or whatever for the signal to fire. And suppose they have amnesia for it, which is pretty easy to induce anyway. All of a sudden, something happens. They'll think that there's a Martian at the door, which is what we did with Andrea in that documentary. So she hears the door, goes and answers it, and there's a space alien there and invites her onto the spaceship or whatever. When the person hears that knock on the door in their imagination, guess what happens? They go back into a trance instantly when the post-hypnotic suggestion fires at the exact same depth they were just in. So you bring them out of it, the suggestion fires, they go instantly right back in until they complete the suggestion or until you hijack the trance or someone else does. That's the spot you got to watch for, because people can hijack it when they're in the middle of a post-hypnotic suggestion. If you tell them they'll get the urge to leave the room and you don't let them leave, they're stuck. They're stuck in a Zeigarnik loop with no resolution. And if someone comes in at that point and says something like, "And sleep now," they will. They'll go right back in. So be careful if you do post-hypnotic work to make sure the person can fulfill it without any problem. Because they're blocked otherwise and they're waiting for resolution. That's the Zeigarnik effect. And it's a weird thing. If you do any suggestibility tests, and I'm completely ambivalent about them. If you want to use them, use them. If you don't want to use them, don't use them. Some people get great results, and when I teach them, I don't typically use them. But if you use a suggestibility test, on the count of 3, you will not be able to open your eyes, let's say, and 1, 2, 3, they open their eyes with no problem. You still have to remove the suggestion, even if you're just saying, "And your eyes are normal again." That's it. Case in point, Andre Weitzenhofer. He tells a wonderful story. I think he's since passed on. And he tells that he was doing a demonstration with a group of people, and I think a lot of doctors in the room as well. And he gave a suggestion to one guy that when he woke up, he would have the irresistible urge to give Andre $1. Now, $1 was a lot of money back in the 40s, and the guy comes out of trance and nothing happens. So Andre, back in his youth, thinks, "Oh, it didn't work." Just forgets about it. He forgets to remove the suggestion, even though it didn't work. It's now a stone in the guy's shoe. It's still there. And so, bless you. A few moments later, he terminates the demonstration, and then they all talk, and then he goes home. And like 2 in the morning, the phone rings. And it's his friend who he did this post-hypnotic on. And he said, Andre, he said, I wake you up. He said, no, I have to get up to answer the phone. And so he says, I'm coming over to your house. I'm going to give you $1. No, I'm going to give you $2 just to be on the safe side. And he said, no, look, you don't have to do that. I'm doing it. Bye. Hangs up. And he wait now. Guy comes over. I don't know what you do here. Take this and take this one too. Bye. And that broke the loop that he felt resolution. So remember, always, when you're testing suggestions. Now here's the thing I wanted to talk to you about, because this will give you greater hypnotic power, whatever inductions you're doing. When you bring the person to this point here, and bring them back out of trance. Whether you awaken them, emerge them, I don't care. When you bring them back, you should ensure 2 things. One is that all the hypnotic trances you use are powerful and robust and get the job done. They're stable and strong. Likewise, ensure that their waking state is entirely wide awake. It's not carrying trance residue with it. And that's what you would get if you did the thing that that one instructor recommended. Are you sure you're all right? And they come out there. You know these scary Ericksonian phrases like, are you still going into trance or are you right out of it? So when people come out of it, what Erickson used to do was he'd count the person out or whatever, and when they'd open their eyes, he'd smile and say, hi. Now the reason he'd do that is hi belongs to the waking world. You don't talk to people like that when they're in a trance. And if you use a hypnotic voice and you slip back into it when you're talking to them, they'll start going back in. So you've got to keep it clean, keep them out. So when you bring them out, you count them out. And this is the high moment. Right here. When you awaken them. Because what that does is it prevents you from accidentally bridging this deep trance into the waking world and having any residue. The reason why is if you have trance residue, if the person is a pretty good subject, there is a period from the moment they wake up to about 3 minutes later, 1 to 3 minutes later, they can still be prone to suggestion, hypnotic hangover. And how this can play out is very interesting. Remember, if someone has prestige, they're a better hypnotist without a doubt, because it's established, well, you got prestige, you must be amazing. Erickson, people would just look at him and go into trance. They're terrified of him. And so, Jeffrey Zeig said first time he met him, Milton was all friendly and shook his hand, and 10 minutes later he found himself in the hall staring at his hand. Everybody else had left. These things could happen. So what I'm saying is, when you're doing this, really guard the person for that 1 to 3 minutes. Keep them away from suggestions. For example, if someone has prestige, they have power in that person's life. A teacher, an authority figure, a parent. I worked with a medical doctor's daughter who had some serious issues and worked with her for about 90 minutes, maybe longer, a very long session for me. And we cleared up this horrible incident in her past on a school trip, tidied everything up, empowered her again, got rid of all the residue and crap and garbage, brought her back. This girl, beautiful girl, was just glowing. And I normally would protect the person for about 5 minutes. Talk about anything but hypnosis. Oh, is that your Honda out there? Oh, how do you like that car? How is it in traffic? Get their mind off it completely so they can stabilize and come back. Instead, she jumped up, she was so happy, and ran out of the room into the lobby where her mother was waiting in the doctor's office. The teenage girl ran out, true story, she said, Mom, it's amazing. He's got magic hands, he pushed these buttons in my brain, and I'm okay again. I'm back to being me, I'm 100%. The mother said this, are you sure? You don't look any different to me. I don't think it's worked at all. Honest to God. And with that, the prestige of this very controlling, but very respected mother with all the right intentions in the world undid about 90 minutes of work. And I never got to work with the kid again. Guard them in that time. So what you do instead of risking bad information, it probably won't happen, but this have 3 minutes, just be sure, make it 5 minutes. What you do is the coda. Coda was my invention a number of years back. You don't always have to do it, but if you do it and it works, it's freaking awesome. A coda comes from classical music. You'll hear it in some very frilly Baroque pieces where you get to the end of the line, and instead of a complete cadence where it ends, you go dun, dun, ends, you get a little frilly bow. That's what a coda is, it's a bow. Dun, dun, Just tie it in the end, there's your coda. A hypnotic coda gives them positive suggestions during this 3 minutes when they're apparently out of trance. And it can be as simple as smiling at them and saying, you're going to sleep so well tonight. You will have a phenomenal result with this, and I know this is the start of something good for you. Just that. And those suggestions, if they are still prone to hypersuggestibility at that time, what a wonderful thing to give them as a gift. That's the time to get in. And you'll have the most fun with that because you stretch your brain finding clever things to say in that couple of minutes. Questions about any of this? Yes? Meg?
Yeah, as they're coming out, you can put in the positive stuff, but what if somebody within that 3 to 5 minutes themselves says, well, I don't think anything happened? Could that have an effect on it?
No, I'm gonna still have the locus of control at that time. And when they come out of it sharply with the high, I've still counted them out. There's gonna be a sense of, I'm giving them an experience. They're not gonna have any doubt. One of the ways that it's going to ensure that they're not going to come out during that coda and think, oh, it didn't work. No. Give them an experience. And one of the things I like to do is the roller coaster technique. So I'll count them out from 1 to 10. It amazes me how many otherwise sane hypnotists count down to put you into trance and count down again to bring you out. Go the other way. It makes more sense. But if you're counting them out, let's say to 10, and you say, on the count of 10, you'll be wide awake and fully awake, and notice how amazing you feel. 1, and you're coming out of it. 2, rising up to the surface, feeling so much better. 3, you're taking a deep breath. 4 and 5 and 6, feeling awesome. And 5, plunging back down. 4 and 5, coming out. 6, 10, you get up to 10, and they go, whoa. Because they get a sense of coming out of this really. You'll give an experience with that. Keep the vomit bag handy. You won't need one. It's in their head. It's not in their physical body. I only had one person ever throw up on stage once. It was at Thiel College, Greenville, Pennsylvania. Someone in the chair, they're taking a roller coaster ride and made it a little too vivid. Right over the first hill. Boy, this hypnosis thing is real after all. Any other questions about any of this before we move on? Excellent. Remember, you're an excellent hypnotist. You already are. Everybody is. It's just sometimes you don't realize it yet. It's an amazing power. And everybody you meet is an amazing subject. And the keys to being a great hypnotist are master the basics. The people who are the true greats in this field, and there are a number of them at this continent, they're the people who have got perfect basics. They've not tried to specialize in one thing, left all this undone. The best thing you can do with your own hypnotic work, the gift you can give yourself, is to nail all the basics so that you're just absolutely pure and perfect. So you can do all the basic stuff, generalize, be a superb generalist. Then you can start looking at moving into different areas and what you want to work with. There's so much necessity for working with generative change, things like sports and stuff like that. Wide open field, and you can help people to such an immense degree with that. So let's look at another induction here. One of the things we wanted to talk about was how you can use language alone to reduce trance. Which brings us to, let's do a newbie. Here, Caps, it's the same artist. See?
Oh, I tried.
I know, you tried. Try again. Okay. Chris is going to get some notes. Do you want to explain about the newbie app?
Yeah, sure. It's one of the gifts, actually.
Yeah, it's one of the gifts. We're not selling anything. It's a gift.
Yeah. So a few years ago, Mike came up with a really good training exercise that we called the NUVI induction, or just NUVI, because the I is induction. It stands for nominalization, unspecified verb, induction. It's a great training exercise, and our friend Brian ended up turning it into a mobile app. It's on the App Store. So if you use the, I was going to say Google. If you go to the App Store, Apple, iPhone, whatever, or Android.
Did you say the Google?
Yeah, the Google.
Getting old, buddy.
Type NUVI or type NUVI, Mike Mandel. You'll find it. It's a free app, and it also gives you a free course, which you're getting anyway as part of the stuff you put in my envelope. So you'll be able to practice this, and what you'll get is a toolbox that allows you to get really good at crafting Ericksonian conversational language.
What's up with your voice?
It's like completely gone.
I know
Mike.
it is. It's
yeah.
horrible.
I don't know. It's Las Vegas. Yeah. It's Vegas voice.
It is
It's Vegas voice.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Drink more water. So, everybody, who doesn't? Anybody not know what a nominalization is?
Okay, I'll explain it anyway.
A nominalization is a noun that you cannot put in a wheelbarrow. So a bowling ball is not a nominalization. Apartment building is not a nominalization because if one had a sufficiently large wheelbarrow and a large enough crane, the apartment building could be put inside it in theory.
Because you can touch it.
But there's other words that won't fit in wheelbarrows, and they're still nouns. Words like empowerment, fun, responsibility, health. All of these things, because they're nominalizations, the meaning of that word is different for every single person in this room. Because the meaning is based on your perceptual filters and your life experience. So one person might think success is running $3 billion businesses. To somebody else, success might be living another day above ground in perfect health. So their rules for getting this thing or not getting will be somewhat different. If you had for a value happiness, for some people, happiness means having an awesome family who's around and telling you they love you all the time. To somebody else, happiness might mean just being left alone to go and hang out in the woods. It's really going to be individual. So when you work with nominalizations, you are working with words that will cause the person you are saying them to force their attention internally and attempt to get meaning. Am I not coming through?
Did it just die?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if it's batteries.
Am I on now? Hello, am I on? Excellent, good. So, I know exactly where we were. So, if we now posit that hypnosis is not necessarily focusing the attention externally on an object, like a bright light or whatever, or a swinging watch, but it can also be turning the attention inward. You can even use something like an internal metronome, where the person imagines a metronome ticking. And that's what they use to go into trance. It's kind of cool. They report typically later that it speeds up and slows down and changes shape and so on. So if I'm using a nominalization, if I put those in my induction, I'm forcing the person to go inside to their own personal experience, their own meaning, and determine what this actually means. So right away, we're taking them from the external world internally to try to make sense of the sentence. Does that make sense? Okay. When we add to that something we call the run-on or never-ending sentence, it gets even more powerful. Because we do not know, nobody knows how Broca's area and Wernicke's area in the brain produce and interpret language. You know, just saying, oh, well, it's going into the protein code in the, just explaining something, it's not the same as really saying what's happening. We don't know how language works, is the bottom line. I don't know how the hell I'm speaking to you right now. Essentially, I'm giving you the proper sequence of words, and it's going to make sense, and you're interpreting it naturally and easily without knowing how you're doing it, and it's fine until I suddenly say rhinoceros, and it doesn't make sense in the context, and everybody, whoa, we come out of it. That's how hypnotic language works. If I give you a very, very long sentence, you are forced to continue examining the sentence like a long, long roll of paper that's being written on, that is continually unwinding, but never seeking resolution for itself. And as you continue to listen to those words and attempt to find out the meaning behind those words by going inside and trying to understand why the paper continues to roll. We're going on and on and on. The sentence gets so long, it's impossible to track. And basically, we just collapse into trance. When we do that, but add nominalizations, it goes on steroids. Now, your magic words for putting together never-ending sentences are and as. That's your starting point. That will give you ultimately super long sentences. And as you use this, and as you apply the power of and as you recognize how simple it is to continue constructing sentences using these two words, it gets easier all the time. Now let's get a list of some nominalizations. Or as Chris and I like to say, nominalizations, because it's longer and funnier, pronouncing all the letters. So, somebody give me a nominalization. We're going to task this guy. What was that one?
Love.
Love. I thought you said rock. I was going to say tiny misunderstanding there. Love, perfect one, young lady. Love it is. Means a different thing to all of us. Another one. Success. Success? Okay. What was the one over here? Power? Yep. Adventure. Okay. So creativity. Cavorting. Comfort. Sorry. Oh, low T-bars. Chris, sorry about the self-esteem, buddy. Chris, I want you to look at the group. This isn't really a class, it's an intervention. This is an intervention, Chris. Get the TV cameras. Geraldo comes in now. Yeah, okay.
Bring it on. Okay.
Another one. Happiness. Resourcefulness. What was that one? Pleasure. Prosperity. Relationship. Now let's get some unspecified verbs. That's great. We got a bunch here.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, so Chris is going to get a row of unspecified verbs. Verbs that don't tell you how something is done, just that it's done. Like a verb like learning. You don't know if that's online or reading a book or someone telling you something. So learning, and even learnings, which is an NLP word.
Consider.
Sorry?
Consider.
Consider, yeah. Accept and realize. Then you get to use that wonderful, you realize and you see with your real eyes. That's right. Imagine, experience. Move? Yep, sure. Or as Derek Bomber would say, sure.
That's good. Maybe one more.
One more.
Eliminate.
Okay, sure.
You like eliminate?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Eliminate or experience. How's that? See, experience can be either a nominalization or an unspecified verb. So now you're going to unroll your sentence and put these together. When I used to teach Erickson's patterns, when I came up with this, people said, why didn't you give us this 10 years ago? It makes it so easy. So you're generating language that has a different meaning for everyone hearing it that forces them to go inside to find the meaning. Here's how it works. I'll jump around. And as you sit there and begin to experience at a really deep level, I mean really deep level, the power that you have all within yourself, it's a simple matter for you to accept and begin to change the parts of yourself that you aren't happy with. And as the happiness grows, with an increasing sense of resourcefulness, you can imagine making a move towards a new and brighter you and a better tomorrow filled with success and power and love. So consider all the learnings that you have and begin to bring them into the situation. And you can imagine that you will illuminate those resources and your resourcefulness will continue bringing greater love to each and every relationship. That's right. Okay, now, so see how easy it is? That gives you a very, very simple way to do it. So, yeah, check out the Nuvi app because the app just throws you the words and you can just practice them out loud. The great thing is you didn't used to be able to practice language patterns when you're driving because you look like you're insane. But now everyone just assumes you're on a hands-free phone, you know? And they're thinking, oh, yeah, okay, Doreen, I'll be there at 11 o'clock. And instead you're going, and resourcefulness and deep sense of worth, you know? So, very, very simple to use. And this will draw people into trance. The key is keep unpacking that long sentence. Questions?
Do those words, are they more powerful if they come from the client? Or these are just generalized?
What a great question. Are these nominalizations more powerful if they come from the client, or are these just general? Now, I'm going to answer that in two ways. There's two answers. These are sufficient, this sort of list is sufficient for hypnotic work for inducing trance. When you're actually changing the person, I'm going to use their exact words. So if someone says to me, as one client said, I asked her why she wanted to lose the 40 pounds. And she was like in her early 40s, and she said, because I used to look really hot, and I'm going to the Riviera on vacation, and I want to wear a black thong bikini and drive the guys crazy. And I said, wow, are you going to be taking any pictures of that? You know, like, she was really interesting. Very, very interesting person. So when she's in trance, and I'm building in the motivation, I don't say to her, and picture yourself on the beach wearing a new bathing suit that people approve of. Where's the emotion in that? No, no, no. I'm going to say, and you're there on the French Riviera with this skimpy black thong bathing suit, and you're driving the men wild with your vivacious beauty and power. That's going to work. I mean, brilliance of Freddie Jacquin. He said, create an emotion and give a suggestion. When you involve the person emotionally instead of raw data, you'll get great, great results with this stuff. That's what it takes. Get their emotions involved. Get them excited about changing. So let us go on to, I want to show you another key induction. We haven't done the little shelf. On the little shelf?
Do we have enough time?
Oh, yeah, we've got 40 minutes, Chris.
Oh, yeah. We end at 5:30.
Yes.
5:20.
Yes.
Right.
Are you any happier? Yes. Yes. Oh, paper cut. Let me show you the little shelf induction. This is kind of a cool one. This is another catalepsy induction. Derek Balmer showed me. It's so freaking easy. So, Chris, come on over here. You can be my volunteer for this. We'll stand up. We'll stand up. This one works well standing, works great for straight hypnosis, anything like that. Another cataleptic induction. So, Chris, in a moment, I'm just going to put your hand on an imaginary shelf here, okay?
Okay.
So, eyes closed now. I'm just going to pick up your left hand and just set it on this little shelf here. And as your hand rests there, you can begin to drift, that's right, into a deep hypnotic state as your head gets heavy and your breathing changes at the perfect rate. And I know from experience your blood pressure is already changed. And as your hand sinks, you can go deeper. And look after your ecology. You can just sleep standing and go deeper and deeper all the time. And you'll come back to the surface whenever you're ready, right now. Hi.
Well done.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Are you sure you're okay?
It's actually in a book.
Do you want us to prop your eyes open? We'll get
With
some
toothpicks?
fans.
Yeah.
That'll help in Las Vegas. Okay, so here's the little shelf induction. The key is to know where the shelf is. It's down here at the person's hip. It's not out here in front of them. Their arm will get tired. Amazingly, with this one, the arm doesn't get tired, up in front. It doesn't work. That position works. But the shelf in front, it gets tired. So the way you do it, I'm getting your freaking laryngitis. Stop it. Heat shields down.
Sure.
Okay, so in a moment, I'm just going to lift your left hand. So if you stand there normally, no, more normally. That's it, really normally, yes. Stop.
Okay.
Now, so I'm going to tell him this is here. So now I pick this up. Just like this, just pick it up by the wrist, and I've told him there's a little shelf there. I just set it on the shelf and let go of it.
Yeah.
It's like a George Foreman oven, remember them? You just set it and forget it, okay? You don't fiddle around with it and try to get it right. If you do that, it'll disappear. Just set it there and forget it, and now start doing all your deepening stuff, okay? You've got a cataleptic limb, it will work. This works well standing, and if you want to keep their ecology, if you're doing it standing, use the Anthony Jacquin line, and you can sleep standing. Just sleep standing. Keep your balance. Okay? Everybody go and do it.
5 minutes. 5 to 10.
Yeah.